Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Digital ATN's Digital Learning Day. Thank you for joining us today to refine and continue to develop digital learning skills, strategies, and resources that we can use to implement at your agency. My name is Jose Adorno. I am the Digital Learning Coordinator at Advance. I am also joined by Amy Ferrari, the ATDN Coordinator. We will be your moderators for today. All our sessions will be recorded, and the materials shared by our presenters will be available after the conference via email. Please put in the chat any questions or comments during the presentation to get them to the presenters. Also, everything shared today will also be available as topics for tech support. If you need help accessing the resource, looking for a tutorial, brainstorming ideas or strategies and implementation, Digital ATN is the place to go, and the best of all, it's free. I am thrilled to share today's third presentation, AI-powered teaching, what teachers need to know in the age of AI. This is a kickoff to our Knowledge Bytes series that begins on Monday. I'll be putting the flyer in the chat momentarily. Our third presenter is a technical advisor at World Education. I met her shortly after starting in Digital ATN through an EdTech strategy session, followed by an EdTech makerspace. She's extremely resourceful and considered a guru and an AI guru. I also say that she's the HI in AI. She's also the keynote speaker for CASE. And with that said, I introduce you to Rachel Riggs. Thank you for presenting for us.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Hello, everyone, and thank you guys for having me. Before we even get started, today's a special day, and I have to know who here knows what birthday we are celebrating today. Maybe some are celebrating, some might be mourning. Does anybody know what significant global figure was born 1 year ago today? Okay, I don't know if it's Mark Twain's birthday. I'm not going to push back on that at all because I have no idea. Today is ChatGPT's birthday. 1 year ago, OpenAI released a tool called ChatGPT. Now let's see how many of you have heard of that tool. This will give me a good sense of how to approach today's session. Give me a little yes or no in the chat box if you've heard of ChatGPT. Okay. We've got a yes. We've got a yes, 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 yes. Okay, good. Good. It's hard not to hear about it these days. Honestly, my mom emailed me recently and she emailed me a webinar about ChatGPT, and I'm like, honestly, Mom, I appreciate it, but I just can't consume any more webinars about this tool or I'm gonna go crazy. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining today. Like Jose said, I'm Rachel Riggs. I work at the EdTech Center at World Education, and I also work for our Open Education Initiative known as Crowded Learning. Before I get into today's presentation, I wanted to just start with a little warm-up Mentimeter, get to know who you all are. And so if you scan the QR code on your mobile phone, I'm sure you guys know the drill here. You can enter into the poll, or if you want to use your browser on your desktop or laptop, you can go to menti.com and enter this numerical code 47843205. And I see some thumbs up. I love when you give me a thumbs up. It lets me know that people are getting in okay. And I'm just going to wait till we're all in. And I'll give you a little hint that our first question is about what is your vision for education? So before we start talking about something that's been super disruptive in education, I like to bring it back to our roots and our passions. So we're going to put together a little word cloud about what our vision for education is. And it can be a word like engaging, joyful. It could be a word like impactful, but a word or short phrase that expresses your vision for education. So we'll go ahead and get started there. know that you can still join. So I have flipped to the next screen on my end, but you guys can keep joining at menti.com and using this code. I'll put the link. Oh, thanks. I think Jose put the link in the chat already. Great. Okay. Engaging, meaningful, fun, innovative. Pathway. I love that. Yes. Opening up opportunities. So the Office of Ed Tech recently published a report on AI, and this was one of their recommendations was to align AI models with our vision for education. And they were talking about that very much in a technological kind of way. But I think that as teachers, it's also really important for us to stay grounded in what our vision is and what our goals are before we even think or talk about adopting new technologies, new approaches, new methodologies. So I always like to just kind of bring us back to this. I love collaborative getting really big in here. I am also a big collaborator, and I really love being in a teaching community. A little bit about my background is I actually started as a TESOL educator in an adult basic education program. And it was there that I started really getting passionate about digital skills and developing some approaches to teaching digital skills. And then when I became instructional specialist for that program, I really got excited about supporting teachers in ed tech integration. So those are two of my big passions. On this next slide, I would like to have you guys rate these statements. So the first one is really about kind of your core. So how would you rank your ability to apply evidence-based teaching practices? Teaching 101, right? And then the second one is layering in technology. How would you rate your ability to use technology effectively in your teaching? And then the third one is a question about the future. To what extent do you feel prepared to navigate this evolving technological landscape? And these results are pretty much as I expected, where we usually feel pretty confident about our teaching, but when we talk about looking to the future and the things that keep changing with technology, it's where we start to maybe lose a little bit of that confidence. So I hope that today I can kind of bring you guys back or at least spark in you this idea that you have all of the tools and knowledge that you need to effectively and ethically implement AI in your classrooms. Finally, what do you hope to learn today? This is open-ended. So I just want to hear what some of your hopes are. Why did you join this session? And what are you hoping to get out of it? And it's okay if you don't know.
I'm happy to contribute.
Sure, go ahead, Andrea.
Thanks. Hi, sorry I was late. So we've been talking a lot at our literacy volunteers, adult ESL programming about the use of AI, and we've begun to do some work with tutors. And I'm just hoping to exchange some ideas about practical implementation for kind of creative uses for teachers. Sometimes you can't find just the right materials, and we've experimented a little bit thus far with using it to create scenarios that will help our students engage in practice conversations, short text, that sort of use for curriculum materials. And
Great.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun with it. So, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were not supposed to speak. We were supposed to put it in the
Oh, it's okay. That's good to hear. Thanks for sharing, Andrea. And we've got some great responses here too. How will it make teachers' lives easier? That's a great question. How to teach our students to use AI. I love that. That is something that I'm very passionate about too. Kind of, we can use the tools and hold power in that way, but how do we actually equip students to do that too? Okay, some concerns about plagiarism, effective ways to use it, how to use it for enrichment classes, open-minded to the possibilities. This is excellent. And when we talk about AI, there really is so much to talk about. And so what I want to do today is I just really want to kick off your learning experience and experimentation with AI with today's session. You guys have knowledge bites coming up. That'll be a great way to experiment. and build community around your use of AI. So I'm just going to kind of give hopefully an intriguing little, what is it called? Like what is it called? Not a taste tester. You guys know what I mean. So anyway, today I will talk to you guys about AI in education and what, how this applies to your role as a teacher. So we've got 3 objectives: understanding the role and potential of AI in adult education, talking a little bit about ethical considerations, and then I'm also just going to talk briefly about, what's different about AI pre and post ChatGPT. And the way today's session will flow is, we'll do introductions. You guys have given me a good sense of who you are through that poll. I'm going to tell you a little bit about world education. Then I'll talk about AI. And then hopefully, if we have time, I would love to open it up to just an ask me anything and get your questions. So who we are, world education being the we here, we are a global nonprofit. So we operate in 13, we have active projects right now in 13 different countries and have had projects in around, a little over 20. Our mission is equity in education, and we are working to basically advance equity and inclusion for the most marginalized learning communities around the world. We have an Asia portfolio, an Africa portfolio, and then also a US portfolio. In the US, our work is all centered around adult learners and adult education and workforce programs. And within that, we have a large body of work and expertise in leveraging technology and in digital inclusion strategies. So that's a little bit about what we do. And you can kind of guess why AI would be extremely relevant to us if our mission is equity and our work is centered largely around technology in the US. So the question then becomes, though, why AI and why now? We've been working in ed tech for so many years, and we haven't had an AI initiative, and now we do. And that's because of the significant developments that have happened, one of them happening just 1 year ago, like we talked about. But really, AI ed isn't new. So as a field and as the sector of computer science, AI ed is artificial intelligence in education. And it's been around since the 1980s, so about 40 years, a little older than ChatGPT. And it's been expressed in some of these keywords that you'll see in these bubbles on the screen, right? So there have been intelligent tutoring systems. That was one of the very earliest innovations in AI ed. And you can think now of the virtual tutors. If you're familiar with Essential Education, they have a virtual tutor. You can also think about automated essay scoring. So in some of the language exams that where students might actually write an essay, AI is the technology that does that automated scoring of those essays. You might also interact with AI in a data dashboard. So if you use stuff like NGen, Essential Ed, any of these learning management systems or curricular tools, Burlington English, you might have a dashboard as a teacher that you're looking at. And usually there's an application of AI that is helping to analyze, compile, and visualize that data. And a lot more. It's a very expansive field with a lot of different applications. So what brings us here today are the breakthroughs in generative AI, which is a smaller sector of AI in which an AI generates completely new data, code, images, text, and other types of media. So the reason that this has become significantly more important is because we have technology with new ability and users with new access. So if we think about what generative AI and tools like ChatGPT can do, they can now do things with increased speed and accuracy. So they can produce essays in a matter of seconds. They can produce images that look very realistic in a matter of seconds. And they also, you may have heard of something called natural language processing, but they have an increased accuracy now that makes this a particularly disruptive time for AI ed. And if we think too about what got us here, there's a lot of computational elements, like the ability to gather and aggregate large amounts of data, that have gotten us to this point to have this big breakthrough in generative AI. And then another significant thing is that we have now users that are very mainstream and lay users of AI, and they have access to the tools with reduced cost and skill demands. So we think about cost. ChatGPT, for example, is free. Okay, the basic model of it. I know most of these are freemium tools where they start free, and then as you want more features, you pay a premium for the tool. But we definitely have more access to these powerful tools. And we also don't need sophisticated skills now to be in control and give an input to an AI model. So with ChatGPT, for example, the skills that you need are to be able to create a login, navigate a web browser, and type a prompt. So those are not as demanding as things like being able to program and code and things like that. So we've got technology with new ability and users with new access. And what does that mean for teachers? So if teachers now have access to free tools that can generate lots of different types of media in a matter of seconds, that's what brings us here today, right? What does that actually mean for us, and what's our roadmap for moving forward?
There's no audio.
You guys didn't hear that, did you? I was just realizing that right when it played. Okay, wait, we have to go back and do that again. Okay, it's fixed now. Wait, if I
remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Okay, did you hear it now?
Yes.
It's from
Yes, we did.
Spider-Man. Yes. With great power comes great responsibility. So we have this power to now generate all of this media and really have some powerful assistance to augment our practice. And with that power comes the responsibility of knowing what we're doing with these tools, aligning our use of these tools with effective practices, and also making sure that our use of digital tools is inclusive of diverse learners and backgrounds. With great power comes great responsibility. Okay. Okay, no, I don't want to play it again. Sorry, guys. Okay, so what is our new teaching power and responsibility in AI for education today? We have first the power of powerful new tools. Thank you, Cesar. That scene involves Peter Parker and Ben Parker. Yeah, that was Uncle Ben. So if you didn't get the reference, it's Uncle Ben from Spider-Man telling Peter Parker that, you know, now that he's got this new power, he also has to be responsible. Okay, so we've got powerful new tools and features. I'm going to go ahead and click. You're going to see a bunch of logos on the screen, and I want to hear from you guys. Which logos do you recognize? Do you know how they leverage AI? Could you summarize that in the chat? Or how do you use them? So anybody who can say, oh, I know what that logo is. Here's the name of the tool, and it does X, right? Or maybe you say, oh, I know it. Okay, here we go. Thanks, Pamela. Pamela says that she recognizes Canva. Yes, this is the Canva logo here, which has Magic Write, which is a generative AI enabled feature in Canva that helps you to quickly generate lots of text. Okay, Cesar does not recognize any of the logos, and that's fine. So we will get into kind of how you can start experimenting. Knowledge Bytes being one of the ways that you can definitely start experimenting with these different tools. And Canva, yes, more generally is an app that helps create social media and digital content. It's a great digital design tool. It is also a freemium tool, so you can access some of these features for free. Conmigo is one that Jose recognizes. So if you guys have heard of Khan Academy, they are by far the leaders in terms of ed tech tools in implementing generative AI. They have already developed their own chatbot based that has been trained on all of their Khan Academy content and it's called Conmigo, but it is at a cost. And then we have some that recognize ChatGPT. Happy birthday, little guy. And yeah, and that is just a chat bot. So you can put any prompt into ChatGPT and it will produce text for you. It's also a freemium tool. If you have the premium version, you can generate images and other things as well, but mostly will generate plain text. Okay, cool. And so some of these other ones, this is Speechify here. This is an audio tool, so you can give it any text and it will narrate it for you. You can choose from a lot of different voices. It is also a freemium tool. 11 Labs, also freemium. You can use 11 Labs. You could give it a message like, I'm picking my nose, and have it say that in the voice of Obama, or, you know, something really crazy like that. You can give it any text and then choose from these voices of different famous people, and it will generate that audio for you. Bard is similar to ChatGPT. It's also a chatbot. This one is developed by Google. Lots of similar features. And then this over here is the logo for DALL-E. DALL-E is a text to image generator. So I could say something like flying elephant, and it will in seconds, takes longer than the text, but yeah, probably seconds. It'll produce for you a really nice image of a flying elephant. Here is a full list of different chatbots produced by big tech and ed tech companies. And I'm going to share, I know Jose will share these slides with you guys afterwards. So like I said, if you haven't started experimenting with generative AI enabled tools, this might be a good place to start, to choose one of these and just start seeing what you can do. QChat is one we haven't mentioned. That is Quizlet's chatbot. Claude is another chatbot. Bing is a web browser that has a chatbot in it from Microsoft. And there are more fun tools. DALL-E, which I mentioned, is now integrated into ChatGPT if you have ChatGPT Premium, or you can access it outside of that and have a certain number of tokens. That's what this LIM means. It means limited. You'll have a limited number of tokens to generate images in DALL-E. It's really fun. I definitely recommend just experimenting with these tools, generating definitely text and images. Those are the two biggies. So Canva also has a text to image app. If you're familiar with Canva's app store, you can start a design, go to their app store and add this text to image app, which is free, and it does the same thing pretty much as DALL-E. AutoDraw is a free tool that will take any drawing or scribble that you do on the screen and turn it into an icon, which is pretty cool. Clip Interrogator is fun. It will actually take an image and turn that image into a prompt. So if you're wondering how to get a certain looking image. Hello? Yeah. So it can be fun to put an image in there and then get text and see how the AI interprets that image in the form of a prompt. I talked about 11 Labs. This DID AI Presenters, that's another app in Canva where you can give a script to an avatar, and then the avatar will narrate your script. Refusion is fun to play with. You put text in and it generates music. So just some fun tools that you can check out. And in just seconds, thanks, Jose. Okay, Jose is adding that Bing also has text to image powered by DALL-E, and it's free. I can't imagine when it gets to the terrible twos. Oh, ChatGPT, that's funny. Okay. So in just seconds, we can generate a scope and sequence. So this is a screenshot of me in ChatGPT. And I used a prompt framework to give it a really detailed prompt about a scope and sequence that I want, and it produced it within seconds. We can produce a really realistic looking image. This is an AI generated image of some workers. So great for teachers, right? We always want images. We can produce silly songs and other types of fun media that can just be engaging for class, like this one that you might be able to relate to after the Thanksgiving holiday.
I need a vacation from this vacation.
Okay, so that's from Refusion. So what is our responsibility, right? So we have the power, we can generate all of this stuff. And now what? The European Union gives us 3 steps for teachers. They published a report. They have an AI squad that published a report. I can share, actually, I can hyperlink it here so you guys can look at it later. It's really great. But it's different use scenarios of AI in education. It's mostly focused on primary and secondary, but it still has some really interesting things to look at. But they break down a teacher's role into 3 steps. The first step is teaching for AI. And so that's teaching the skills, knowledge, and attitudes to navigate AI from a user perspective. So if we think about all of us and the ways we interact with AI throughout the day, whether it's Face ID to unlock our phone, whether it's Google Maps to use our GPS, we're interacting with AI every day, probably, unless you're very unplugged, which a lot of respect to you if you are. But you're probably navigating with AI in ways that you wouldn't even be able to say, oh, I just used AI. So this Teach for AI is getting at the skills, knowledge, and attitudes that we all need as we are living in an increasingly AI-infused society. Teaching about AI is really those hard technical skills, training students about AI from a developer's perspective. What's an algorithm? What's a data set? What's coding? Those kind of really technical things. And then teaching with AI is all about appropriately applying AI-based tools in the classroom. So when we're using AI in the classroom, what are the ethical things that we should think about? And how do we do it in a way that's inclusive? How do we do it in a way that's effective for learning? So breaking these down a little bit more, we can think about what this would look like, right? So teaching for AI, this user perspective, might be something like integrating data privacy concepts into a social studies lesson on human rights. That's an actual example taken from an AI curriculum published by Day of AI, which is a team out of MIT. We might also think about integrating algorithmic literacy into a language lesson in which learners are describing the steps of a process. So algorithmic literacy might sound very complex and technical, but there are ways to integrate awareness around what an algorithm does with more simple activities like this, like putting a process into different steps. Teaching about AI, like I said, is that more technical piece. We might have students create an AI application to learn about classification and data sets. Another example taken from Day of AI. So you can kind of see how this is not just integrating the literacy into another content area, but it's actually explicitly teaching how to develop AI tools. AI EDU, which is another AI curriculum developer, has a lesson called AI Olympics, and it's all about, actually it's a curriculum, it's not just a lesson, but it's about training an AI model. And then teaching with AI. So here is where we probably all have dabbled the most, using Bard or ChatGPT to create or update a syllabus, or incorporating the use of an intelligent tutoring system to personalize instruction, the latter being a little more expensive and maybe a little more niche. So looking at, this is the hierarchy that the AI squad has proposed, where teaching for AI is the prominent priority. And then teaching about AI and with AI are just branches off of that priority. I want to know, looking at this and thinking about your role in adult education, do you agree with the hierarchy? And do you have any thoughts about how it could or should change in light of your role? So maybe to accommodate the needs of adult learners, or just as you're thinking about what you need as an educator. You can put responses in the chat. So let me know. What do you think? What do you think about the hierarchy? Okay, Anthony says, I think it makes sense. Students need the basics about AI before actually using AI for educational purposes. Hard to say since I use common AI, but it seems like a good flow. Okay. Okay, so we generally agree with this. I agree to an extent. Teaching about and teaching with is at the same level. Yes, and I totally agree on that too, Jose. I agree that teaching for AI should be something that we are prominently thinking about, right? So what we are teachers, and our role is to make sure that the skills that we teach and develop in learners are relevant to the real world and to real needs. So I like this prominence of teaching for AI too. Where would the ethics? Yeah, and great question, Pamela. I think to me, the ethics and responsible use of AI fall into this teaching with AI. But of course, I think the matter of even bringing digital literacy and AI literacy into the classroom could also be posed as an ethical and call to action, really, and part of our responsibilities as teachers. So what we did a little training with teachers called Camp GPT over the summer. And that gave us some really good, I started with this framework and was kind of like, okay, let me think about what I need to do with teachers to make this make sense. And we learned a lot out of that about how teachers want and do apply the use of generative AI in the classroom, and about really what their needs are. So what we did was we started with number 3, which is teaching with AI. And I think this is one thing where I would critique the hierarchy, where I think that it's hard for teachers to teach for AI or to really even feel bought into the idea of AI literacy until they have dabbled with AI themselves. And especially as we're talking about this new generative AI and all of the potential that has. And so we started with teaching with AI. What does it mean to teach with AI? And we had 4 rules. I think Jose has maybe shared these before. Is that right, Jose? I think you shared these in some document, or I don't remember what it was.
Yes, it was with the North Star implementation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So we have these 4 rules from Camp GPT, and all of these allude to certain ethical principles of AI implementation. The first one is goals before tools. The second is explore and have fun, avoid bugs, and remember to buddy up. So when we talk about goals before tools, this is our mantra at the EdTech Center at World Education. And it really is this idea of before we go and engage in trainings and pay for these different ed tech tools, because that space is so saturated, we need to think first about what our goals are in using those tools. And that applies, of course, still with AI. So we're thinking about how do we align our use of AI with our goals. And our goals can be saving time. That's a valid goal. It's one that I have, and it's a big reason why I use tools like ChatGPT. Our goals might be also instructional goals, like contextualized instruction. We know that that's a big, that there's a gap in resources for teachers to provide instruction that's really relevant to adult learners' lives. We don't always have the resources to do that. So if that's a goal, we can think about how we'll use AI to accomplish that goal. Maybe our goal is differentiation. We saw this a lot in Camp GPT, where people wanted a quiz and they wanted it at 3 different levels, or they wanted students to do a project, but they wanted to provide more choices in the output of that project. So we can also think about how do we use AI to support us in differentiation in adult education. And engagement is another big goal of teachers. So how do we use some of this media, or even just use chatbots as teaching assistants to give us more ideas for engaging learners? Does anybody want to share in the chat what they think about like what their goals for using AI are. I think we could go back probably to that. What do you want to learn? And see what a lot of your goals are. Oh, great. Caesar said differentiation. I think saving time is a biggie. Okay, great. So the second rule we have in Camp GPT was explore and have fun. And this is about building confidence and agility. So as educators, you know, we, like I said, we have to feel confident about our own use of technology and these tools before we really feel comfortable bringing them to the classroom. I don't think before, right? We can do that learning with learners too. But there was this aspect of just experimenting and building confidence, and people in the teachers in Camp GPT, after we all worked together and experimented together, it really broke down the barriers and demystified AI. And so that's one reason I keep encouraging you guys, you know, get into a tool and start using it, or go to Knowledge Bytes and see what tools they're presenting there and start experimenting, because this piece is really critical in taking those next steps toward feeling confident about applying the technology to your practice. We also had this rule of avoiding bugs. And this is where, Pamela, too, we aligned this with different ethical considerations around AI. So this is about knowing the pitfalls and limitations of generative AI and AI in general, one of those being inaccuracy. And so what we found in Camp GPT was not just inaccuracy in the sense of, oh, I spelled inaccuracy inaccurately. Isn't that funny? So not just in terms of like facts and figures, although AI can make a lot of those errors, but also thinking about some of these more niche aspects of the work that we do, like maybe the standards that you're using, or asking for a specific level of something, or asking AI to generate for you a lesson plan according to a best plus score that a student got. Those are kind of niche things. If we think about AI being trained on kind of just the internet, right? It doesn't know a lot about what we do in adult education. So it can be inaccurate in the sense of facts, inaccurate in math calculations. It can also be inaccurate in terms of leveling and giving you something that is sound in terms of adult learning theory and adult educational practices. We also talked about bias. And so what you're seeing here is a text to image generator in Padlet called I Can't Draw. And what I entered was a worker in STEM. And what do we notice about all of these workers in STEM that were generated? Men, exactly, white men. And so this was another thing we explored in Camp GPT of how does AI express its bias, and ultimately the bias of society and the internet through these outputs. And finally, we talked about data traps. And so what you'll see a lot right now are free generative AI tools. And when we hear this word free, it definitely indicates that it's not money out of our pocket, but it doesn't usually explicitly tell us how they are operating a powerful tool for free. Usually that comes at the cost of our data, which is a new currency, right? Our information. And so thinking about, especially if we bring tools into the classroom, what do learners need to know about data privacy and security? And as we ourselves use and implement tools, how do we ensure that we're protecting our own data? And then I also think there's an aspect here with these new tools of evaluating, why is it free, because, you know, we really want to think about, is it free today to collect my data and become more powerful so that it can charge everyone tomorrow? And that's what a lot of these companies are doing. So that was another pitfall to consider. And then finally, our last rule was remember to buddy up. And this is really about the human-centered aspects and the collaborative aspects of using technology, and sharing, collaborating, and communicating. So also thinking about transparency, thinking about human evaluation, and building community around what we're doing in education, because we know that all of education is so much better when there's collaboration, whether it's students collaborating in their learning or teachers collaborating in a community of practice. So in that spirit, we published the contributions from Camp GPT in an open prompt book where you can go and you can read more about these different pitfalls and tips and tricks and stuff. And you can actually see what other adult educators are doing with chatbots in particular, to develop instructional materials, to develop professional development materials, and to even in administration, with how they're using it in that way. So I hope you guys will check that out. It has, this is just kind of showing you the anatomy of it. So you'll see the use case. In this case, it's a classroom observation checklist. You'll see some concrete examples of how they used a prompt framework. And the book itself talks about what prompt framework we used and some strategies for prompting. And then there are open prompts. And so if you click on ChatGPT or Bard, you will, if you have a login, be able to continue that conversation that was started. So it's a great way for you to kind of see, if you can't think of what you want to do with it right now, you can try out one of these prompts, continue the conversation, adapt the checklist for your own class, and kind of get started in that way with a little bit of a primer. So then we get to teach for AI. This is the #1 that the European Commission talked about. And I do believe it's important. And in many ways, it's something that we're already very focused on in adult education, which is digital literacy at its core. That's what teaching for AI would be. It aligns with so many of the digital competencies that we already talk about, like data privacy and security. And so in DigComp 2.2, this is a digital skills framework. They have an appendix where it just lists out all kinds of AI examples. I think there's almost 100 of them. Examples of what learners need to know about AI. I've given 2 here on the screen. So this is like awareness that there are sensors in a lot of the technology and applications and wearable devices that we use. This one is about how to modify your settings so that you're protecting your data. And so I encourage you, if you're kind of thinking, well, how can I teach for AI? I don't even know that much about AI. Look at that list, check it out. Start thinking about, okay, here's an activity. Like what I've done before is, as an example, I pulled this, right? I copy and pasted this exact thing, aware that sensors used in many digital technology and applications. I copied that, put it into ChatGPT, and I said, can you give me an example of how I would integrate this in an adult literacy classroom? What are some activities I could do? Or what are some basic math and literacy skills I could pair with this awareness or this knowledge? So that's like kind of the crazy math that we're in, right? We can actually use AI to help us teach for AI. You can think about different ways to do that. So why do all of this? Why even worry about AI? I think that if you're not as plugged into what's going on with AI, it might feel like this is just one more thing that we're adding to our plates unnecessarily. But truly, AI right now is having a widespread impact on society and on adult learners. So when we talk about the future of work, which is a big area of focus, right, in adult education, LinkedIn published their Future of Work report, and the job postings mentioning GPT or Chat GPT increased 21 times since a year ago. So we see, I mean, that's one small example of the way that this disruption is impacting the future of work. There are concerns over widespread election disinformation because of the unique abilities of generative AI. There is a lot of talk about plagiarism and data privacy and education systems, but also the impact on families in that aspect. Online retail companies and financial technology companies are using generative AI to make recommendations. There's a lot of focus on digital health, on how we can use things like chatbots for healthcare. So all of this, I mean, if you think about the whole learner and all of the different ways that they engage with society and in their community, generative AI is coming into all of those spaces. And so it's really important. And it's something that we call a digital equity imperative to teach for AI and prepare learners for that future. Digital equity is the condition in which all individuals and communities have the information technology capacity needed for full participation in our society, democracy, and economy. And we at World Education for a long time have talked about digital skills as a digital equity imperative. And we definitely view AI literacy as a digital equity imperative. And ultimately, I think, we can talk about all of these big ideas and developments in society. But to me, what it comes down to are the learners. And what do our learners need? What are they interacting with? What questions do they have? We're educators, right? We may not be AI experts. We may not even be AI enthusiasts, but we are educators. And so it is our role to help them navigate and answer questions about what's going on in the world around them. It's a picture of me with my old class. And so the goals of our initiative, AI for Learning and Work, are twofold. First is equity. This is our ethical and mission-oriented goal of ensuring that adults have the skills and access to fully participate and exercise agency in an increasingly AI-infused society. And then the second one is transformation. So yes, we want to make sure to prepare adults. We also want to leverage the technology for educational transformation. So we want to see where it has the potential to fill resource gaps. Where does it have the potential to support teachers? And where can it expand effective learning opportunities? So that is our more practical and solution-oriented goal. And we use these two goals to guide our initiative. And I think as teachers, we can also use these two goals to think about equity. So that would be the teaching for AI. What am I called to do as an educator to ensure that learners are digitally included in what's happening in the age of AI? And then transformation. What can I do as an educator to strategically leverage these tools for effective and accessible education? So I have two upcoming events I wanted to share with you. First of all, our EdTech strategy session, we're going to hear from two awesome teachers who are leveraging AI, is using ChatGPT for ESOL, and the other is using other generative AI tools like some of the stuff in Canva to publish localized magazines using stories from his learners. So it's going to be a really cool session. I hope you guys will attend. You can go to this bit.ly link to register. And then we should meet in person, I think. I think we should all meet in person. So come to the CASE conference on March 7th and 8th. I am the keynote speaker, and I'm super honored to be that. The theme is Adult Learning, Adapt, Advance, and Achieve. And I'm super excited to meet all of you. I hope you will register for the conference. You can go to their website to keep track of those updates. And I'm excited to meet everyone. So thank you so much. What I'm going to do is launch into, how much time do we have? Okay, we have 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is launch into an Ask Me Anything. And this will enable you guys to ask me questions anonymously if you want. It's in our Mentimeter. Here are the instructions again. Or if you're okay with being identified, you can put them in the chat. I just realized sometimes this is like a kind of big, whatever. So, okay, here we go. My concern is, are we teaching our students to rely more on AI technology rather than teach them to become more critical thinkers? So Caesar, that's a great question. Agreed. I have students that are asked Siri to perform math calculations instead of using a calculator. This is a totally legitimate question, and it is a question that we don't have the answer to now, and even some of the greatest minds in AI education are asking this question. And in fact, I was really honored last week. I was at Harvard at their AI for Education class, and this came up, and it was really a question of, what do we still need to teach if AI can answer so many questions for us? So Caesar, this is why I think it's so important to start to use AI as an opportunity to teach critical thinking. It's limited right now, right? So what we can do is we can bring something like ChatGPT into the classroom, and along what Melissa is saying, we can show how ChatGPT is actually still not very good at math, and it makes mistakes in math. And so these core numeracy and literacy skills, these are still critically important, and we can engage learners in conversations around how important they are, without saying, no, don't use AI, and being gatekeepers in that way. So I hope that maybe that gives an idea. Coming from the math perspective, the results coming from a technology device is based on the input entered from a human brain. Okay, wait. The results coming from a technology device is based on the input entered from a human brain. No, that's not accurate. It's not. I think what you're saying is what they're seeing, the output coming from a human who put that in. And it's not that way because of machine learning. And so if we think about, yes, there are humans involved, and what they do is they build machine learning models. And so if the machine learning algorithm is not perfect, then the output is not perfect. And so it's not a one-to-one kind of decision tree of a human told it the answers and it's going to spit out those answers, but it's actually a much more complex statistical and data-driven process, and it is rife with flaws still. So that's a great question. I'm putting my email address in the chat. Any other questions? That was a lot. I know, you guys, AI is a big topic and we only had an hour, but come to CASE, go to the Knowledge Bytes. There's so many opportunities right now to learn more about this. It's probably overwhelming to even know what to engage in, but I think just keep reading, keep listening, keep plugging along, keep experimenting. I think experimenting on your own and talking to your colleagues, like I would prioritize those two activities because there's so much noise. But what's really important is how it applies to your practice, not necessarily knowing all of the technical ins and outs of machine learning and data science and all of those things. And that's one thing when I talk to teachers that they talk about is, what do I really need to know about AI, right? And I say, put the teaching about AI on the back burner and think about first learning to teach with AI, working with it. And second, making sure you're integrating the digital literacy that learners need to navigate this new landscape. Okay, great. Are there ways to trace back products to the source to know how or from where content is generated? Susan, yes, in some tools, there is that capability. So Bard, I think, is one example of really providing you with great citations to the source information for what it's telling you. ChatGPT is not as good as Bard in that aspect. All of the tools are getting better at that, but I think it's still really important to just use them as a starting point and to really think about yourself as the human verifier and evaluator of anything that is AI generated. Okay, Jose will email the PDF for the Knowledge Bytes series. Thanks, Jose. And any other questions? Do AI tools like ChatGPT automatically save all of my prompts? So that's a great question. You can go into, so first of all, yes, ChatGPT will automatically save all of your prompts. Yes, ChatGPT is using your prompts and your conversations with it to train its model. So, and it's pretty transparent about that too. So don't put in any personal information. Don't share your address or your social security number. And then also go into your settings, because there are certain settings where you can turn off and on to protect your data. And so ChatGPT, the company behind it is a research company. It's an AI research company. And they are always experimenting. So they're adding new features and they're experimenting. And what you can do in your settings is tell them, you know, sure, turn this on. I'm happy to provide my information to inform your research, or no. So there are those options. So I would go into your settings and really think about what you want to share, what you don't want to share. And just at a base level, just don't ever enter any of your personal and sensitive information into pretty much anything online, except for like a really secure website, but definitely not these little generative AI experimental tools. Thanks, Anthony. I'm so excited about CASE. I tell people all the time, I am a people person and I'm an in-person person. So I'm a people in-person person, and I like to hang out and meet people in person. So I'm excited to go to Connecticut and meet all of the educators. No problem, Pamela. Thanks for your great questions. Definitely let us share. We have the EdTech strategy session, so that's a really easy link here. Oh wait, I put it in wrong though, of course. EdTech strategy session, ETSS. If you guys want to register for this, it'll be great. Yay, good. I'm excited to see you, Andrea. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Rachel. This has been great. It was a nice introduction to our Knowledge Bytes series that's coming up. The first or the second session after today is on December 4th. So that information Jose will also email and have provided to everybody as well, as we send out all of the recordings and presentations. So again, December 4th, Knowledge Bytes, AI Basics from Beginner to Pro with Prompt Engineering. And of course, CASE keynote speakers. So definitely be sure that you go and see Rachel in person. She's dynamic virtually and in person. So it's wonderful. We thank you so much. So
thanks, guys. Good to see you and have a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of Digital Learning Day. Yay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.